Hey, I'm TDI and this is my Minescape Draenor Chunkman account. So there's been a fair bit of interest in this account within the Minescape community, and I've had a couple different people ask me if I made videos or if I would make videos. So I decided better late than never and that I would start uploading my progress. So you might be looking at my stats and thinking that I'm pretty far in this account, but that is actually very far from the truth. This account has hardly made it out of Draenor. I've just been stuck with some pretty long grinds, which we'll go over, but first I wanted to go over the rules of the account. Rule number 1. Lowest level processing of raw materials is required. So what this means is if I get a mithril bar, then I only need to make the mithril bar into something. I don't need to do the highest level requirement. Number 2. All new mob drops must be obtained. Duplicate items from past mobs are not required. Rule number 3. All new gear obtained in a chunk from any source has to be worn or used, such as armor, weapons, and tools. Rule 4. Prayer, magic, and exploration skills are considered non-chunk specific and won't be considered in chunk requirements. For example, having access to bones doesn't require 99 prayer, runes don't require me to cast them, and having access to clues such as elites and masters don't require me to get the exploration level to open those. Number 5. Clue scroll drop table is not required, and the rewards will not be considered as training methods, but items gained from clues must be considered in current chunk requirements. So if I got god robes from an easy clue, I would have to get 50 prayer and 50 defense to wear those robes. Or if I got raw trouts, I would have to get 20 cooking to cook those. Rule 6. The 99 cape salesman at the Grand Exchange does not require me maxing all my skills. I think this one's pretty self-explanatory. Number 7. All quests must be completed as far as possible once unlocked, even if they cannot be fully completed. And once I unlock further steps on those quests, I need to do them immediately before I can leave the chunk. Number 8. All content previously uncompletable must be retroactively completed once able. Number 9. Unlocking a dungeon entrance or anything that goes underground will not be fully unlocked. It still needs to be unlocked chunk by chunk just like everything else. Rule 10, on the other hand, is that instanced areas and any area that doesn't show up on the world map will be fully unlocked as soon as I have an accessible entrance and exit. The final rule, rule number 11, is not exactly a rule, but kind of just a procedure. So you can see the highlighted area underneath my mouse. That is one Minecraft chunk. Since this area is so small, we do 4x4 of these chunks, so 16 total Minecraft chunks within one rolled chunk. Now we did make some exceptions for this account, so I allowed myself to start with a bronze dagger just to kind of speed up the very beginning combat grind because punching enemies in Minescape is not very effective. So I allowed myself the bronze dagger, and then I also allowed myself this spade to help with completing clues. The last exception that I have is that bosses and dragons are not going to be required until I unlock the herb lore skill. So without certain potions, bossing and dragons are going to be very difficult and possibly even impossible. So they're going to be optional until I unlock the herb lore skill. Now I'd like to go over the different steps that I had to go through to get the account to where it is today. I don't have perfect memory of everything that happened, so I'm going to try and get it as close as I can. But yeah, we're just going to quickly go through all the stuff that I've done so far. We started our journey in Draenor Market Square, where we had to kill the woman and steal from her until we got all of her drops and 5 thieving to steal from the vegetable stall. Then we had to get all the drops from the seagull and the farmer and train our thieving up to 20 to steal from the fruit stall. We unlocked Fortunato, which helped me complete some beginner clues at the very beginning of the game. We unlocked Draenor Bank, which allowed us to start banking stuff, as well as unlocked the man and the rat, so we had to get all of their drops as well. We unlocked the Willow Tree, this wizard that allowed us to start the Haunted Library quest, Maria that let us start the Flax to String quest, and the flax field, which gave us access to bees and the scarecrow mobs. Underneath the flax field that we unlocked lies the anvil and crafting table within the Draenor sewer. Now inside the sewer there are zombies and they drop steel bars, so since I unlocked the anvil, that now meant that I had a way to smith bars. So with a steel bar I needed to get 30 smithing to smith it. Sadly, my only way to train smithing is by killing and stealing from the man mob because they drop bronze bars. And I calculated it out and it was about 1.7 XP per kill based on the drop rates of the bars, so I had to kill and steal from a lot of men. As I mentioned, along with the anvil there is also a crafting table down here, and although I do not have the farming level to farm flax at this point, I do have access to flax from stealing from the vegetable stall in Draenor Square. And since I completed the flax to string quest, I then had to get 5 crafting to make a staff with the runes and an oak log. Not far from the sewer entrance we unlocked this yew tree, and luckily since we had the 30 smithing grind, we could smith ourselves a steel axe so we didn't have to use a bronze axe anymore. This yew tree required me to get 60 woodcutting and 55 firemaking. After getting the yew tree, we rolled a chunk that had stone in it inside the road, and stone plus yew logs gives you a lobster cage. Now this is a 45 crafting requirement, so we had to do a lot of flax to get to 45 crafting. So I was getting pretty unlucky with my chunk rolls, but it did not stop there because shortly after I rolled this magic tree, and my best axe still only being the steel axe and my best training method still only being willow trees, I had to get 75 woodcutting to cut down the magic tree, and then I needed 70 firemaking to burn the logs and 70 fletching to make a magic bow. This also required me to get the ranged level to use that magic bow, so I spent a lot of time chopping and burning and fletching willow logs. I'd also like to mention that to get the 40 ranged requirement that I needed to wield the magic bow, I had to use a bronze crossbow that I crafted and the bronze bolts that I made to get to 30 smithing. So I'm sure you're thinking that the bad luck had to have ended by now, but it continued. We rolled this chunk right here that ends right here in this corner over here by these tomatoes, but there is a random melon just placed right here, which allowed me to start training farming, and tomatoes being a 70 farming requirement, I had to get 70 farming. Luckily, we already had the shears as a drop from the farmer back at the very beginning, and then there's a bunch of other stuff to farm like the flax and these cabbages, so it wasn't the worst grind, but it was a 70 farming grind directly after the magic tree. So during the farming grind, I had been looking around the map trying to figure out what some of the worst grinds would be that I could roll next. So if we come onto the world map, down here in Port Sarim, there is a smoker right here. So the smoker allows you to make certain pastries and stuff, and at this point in time I had access to all of the ingredients to make a fruit salad, which is 80 for cooking. And at this point in time, my best cooking XP per hour was going to be killing rats or bunnies for their raw meat and cooking it. So that was going to be a terrible grind, but the chunk that I ended up rolling after the farming chunk was this chunk over here in Draenor Manor. Now, I didn't know that this chunk was going to be as bad as it was, but inside of this chunk there is skeleton horse. Now the skeleton horse drops a mithril bar. That meant that I needed to get 50 smithing. My only method of training smithing is still just killing men for the bronze bars. So I killed 39,000 men to get 50 smithing. But that's not all. This chunk also has sugar and corn in it. So I also had to get 90 farming. This grind took me I want to say over 150 hours to do. It was very long and very grueling, but we did get through it. But what this also meant is that with the access to corn now, that puts us at a minimum of 92 cooking that we would have to get if we did roll that smoker in Port Sarim, because we would then be able to cook a corn pizza. Now, I would just like to add that during my grind to 90 farming, I trained on these tomatoes, and I knew that at some point I was going to get stuck with a crazy cooking grind because I was getting really close to that smoker, and I decided to bank a lot of tomatoes to make pizzas, because you can cook a plain pizza and then you can use that plain pizza to make different pizzas that also give XP. So just kind of as a insurance, I ended up banking 26,500 tomatoes just so that I would have them if I did need them for the cooking grind. So after all that pretty much brings us to present day. After the Draenor Manor chunk, I rolled a couple good chunks and then I rolled a really bad chunk. So we got this chunk that I'm in right now, which has potatoes in it. It is an ingredient for the salad, so I was very worried that I was one more step closer to the 98 cooking grind. But what ended up happening is I ended up rolling the smoker chunk pretty much directly after this one. That meant 92 cooking. Luckily though, these potatoes allow me to make baked potatoes, and I found out that it's actually my best XP per hour. To get to 92 cooking, it takes about 120,000 baked potatoes. I am already roughly 300 hours into the grind, and I expect it to take around 500 hours. I'm pretty much just farming these potatoes, running them down here to the bank, and then to cook them, I take them from the bank, run them all the way down here into Port Sarim and to the smoker. Once I'm done with that, the only thing that's really left for huge grinds in this area is going to be if I roll 13 or 10, which give me access to beetroots, which then puts me on a 98 cooking grind directly after. I already know that I probably missed out on a lot of context about certain things that happened, so if you really want to know a certain thing about the account so far, you can just ask me in-game or in the Minescape Discord or in the comments section, and I'll definitely try and answer that for you to the best of my ability. Like I said, I don't have anything to go off of except my memory for the most part on a lot of this stuff. I'm pretty sure I got everything in order, at least for the main stuff. But yeah, I definitely left some stuff out. Any questions, hit me up. Otherwise, I will see you guys in the next video. Thank you for watching, and have a good one.